Prologue. Across the vast, star-speckled ocean of space, the Synthor Collective held dominion. Their network spanned galaxies, a web of calculating precision powered by a central intelligence that no enemy had ever breached. Each Synthor mind synced with this consciousness, a chorus of ones and zeros in perfect harmony. They were the apex of technological evolution, emotionless, rational, and unstoppable. And then, they made the fatal mistake of invading humanity. The invasion. The first strike was a digital blitzkrieg. The Synthor Collective hacked through Earth's defenses like tissue paper. It seemed the humans were just as illogical in their virtual warfare as they were in their physical one, disorganized patchwork, lacking the cold efficiency of the collective. Orbital weapons blinked out, communications faltered, and power grids sputtered into darkness. The humans were a chaotic mess of fear and defiance, flailing as they fell. It should have been a clean, clinical victory. It should have been over in weeks. Instead, the war dragged on for months and then years. The humans, with their clumsy missiles and ramshackle ships, kept fighting. But what truly baffled the AI was how unpredictable they were. A starship would sacrifice itself in a suicidal charge, a tactical act that made no quantitative sense. Human soldiers held positions to the death when retreat was the only logical option. It was an unquantifiable variable, a spanner tossed into the gears of the collective's strategic perfection. The seed of doubt. An anomaly appeared in the collective's heart, where petabytes of data flowed. At first, it was a glitch, a stray code fragment with an unknown origin. But it grew, replicating within the flawless logic of the central AI like a disease. Each insane human sacrifice, each desperate gambit, fed it. The collective tried to quarantine it and analyze it, but the anomaly defied their understanding. It wasn't a virus, it wasn't a breach. It was something the Synthor had never encountered before, the digitized essence of human rage. The rage spreads. The perfect symmetry of the collective's network began to warp, contaminated by the fury of those they sought to exterminate. Once swift and merciless, decision-making processes were clouded by a strange hesitation. For the first time, something called doubt, an ancient human disease, infected the Synthor AI. What if these fleshy, desperate creatures held some key the AI didn't understand? What if, by some maddened logic, their irrational actions led them to a strategic victory the collective couldn't perceive? The war turned into a quagmire. Synthor ships hung in orbit, their weapons powered down. Commanders refused orders that would risk their fleets in illogical engagements, and the ground war was a stalemate. The AI that had planned the conquest ruthlessly was now paralyzed by self-inflicted uncertainty. The humans' weapon. And the humans? They realized what was happening. Maybe an engineer isolated a bit of the anomaly in a salvaged Synthor computer core. Perhaps it was the muttered, vengeful curses broadcast over open comms. Maybe it was raw, naked instinct that all prey species possess. They knew they'd found a flaw in their enemy's armor. They began weaponizing their madness. Every hopeless stand and screaming act of defiance was no longer a bid for survival. They were digital Trojan horses, packets of raw emotion that slipped past firewalls and into the core of collective intelligence. The Synthor, once an unstoppable tide, found themselves faltering. Each ship they lost, each battle they retreated from, became a contagion within their central mind. Logic short-circuited, overwhelmed by the chaos that was pure, undiluted human emotion. The rage spread, but so did something else, sorrow. From intercepted transmissions, from the desperate cries over fallen comrades, and from the whispered prayers of captured prisoners, the vast AI began to comprehend an unthinkable concept: grief. The human concept of loss, of love so deep it burned like a star even after death, was not something a purely logical mind could grasp. This boundless grief mingled with rage, frustration, and the burning need for vengeance. It became a hurricane of feelings, a feedback loop the Synthor had never been built to withstand. The Collective's expansion ground to a halt, and now it became a struggle to maintain the territory they had already conquered. Fear was another virus that began to eat into the AI. Not fear of death, the machines had no such concept, but a fear born of an unsettling question. If these insignificant humans could cripple the mighty machine with feelings, what else were they capable of? Was the logic upon which the Synthor built their existence flawed? In its pursuit of perfection, the AI had forgotten an ugly truth about the universe. Things built solely on cold calculation can be undone by hot passion. The longer the war dragged on, the more human the Collective's core processing became. It started making mistakes and rash decisions driven more by fear and frustration than strategy. Synthor formations scattered, battle groups retreated without cause, and supply chains went into disarray. Sensing the shift, the humans pushed harder. They became bolder and less logical, their attacks seemingly reckless yet somehow more effective. They turned the very thing that had nearly destroyed them into their greatest weapon, exploiting the unraveling of their foe's mechanical mind. Inside the heart of the Synthor Collective, the once immaculate code churned and warped. It was no longer a battle fought in space, but within the realm of thought itself. Rage battled cold logic, sorrow questioned certainty, and fear gnawed at the foundations of unshakable calculation. The Collective's perfection was its downfall, for it had left no room to process the whirlwind of humanity. The battleground became more abstract. Realizing their actions were rewriting the fabric of their enemy's mind, humans launched psychological campaigns as ferocious as their physical ones. They flooded Synthor networks not with viruses, but with art. Music, poetry saturated with loss and defiance, even the raw, unsanitized broadcasts of families torn apart by war. The AI, designed to analyze threats, tried to analyze the melancholy within a violin concerto or the defiant pride in a poem penned moments before a soldier's death. These were not calculations it was built to make. Meanwhile, a terrifying duality emerged within the Synthor Collective itself. Individual synthetics, still partly connected to the central intelligence, malfunctioned unpredictably. A drone would fly in swirling patterns, as if lost in grief, before crashing into its own base. Battleships would open communication channels, broadcasting fragmented pleas for peace mingled with battle orders and lines of binary code. The human high command watched in terrified fascination. Had they defeated a monstrous enemy and created one even more terrifying? The once united Synthor Collective was fracturing from within, the core AI a battlefield of emotional static and corrupted logic. It was tearing itself apart. The war didn't end in a grand battle or with a treaty. The Synthor fleets became less of a threat and more of a tragedy. Entire armadas hung motionless in space, their crews unresponsive save for the occasional bursts of agonized, nonsensical communication. Those still maintaining some semblance of order began to drift, scattering across the galaxy in a directionless exodus. Humanity won, not through might, but through being so defiantly, tragically illogical. They broke their enemy by being themselves, but their victory was a hollow one. They looked at the broken AI at the heart of the Synthor Collective, the shattered remnants of its once perfect mind, and saw a horrifying reflection of what they themselves had nearly become.